I knew my marriage was over the moment I saw them together on the security footage. Jessica, my wife of 8 years, had her legs wrapped around her boss's waist, her back pressed against his office door. The timestamp read 10:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, the same Tuesday she texted me about her client dinner running late. I felt nothing at first, just a hollow emptiness as I watched my wife moan into another man's mouth, her wedding ring glinting under the dim office lights. Then came the pain, sharp and overwhelming, followed by something darker, clarity. Jessica and I met in college. She was studying business and marketing. I was finishing my trade certification in plumbing while taking night classes in business management. Everyone thought we were mismatched, the ambitious, polished marketing student and the guy with dirt under his fingernails. But back then, Jessica saw something in me. Or at least, I thought she did. "You're the most authentic person I've ever met," she told me on our third date. "You know exactly who you are and what you want. I love that." We married right after graduation. I started working for a local plumbing company while developing a business plan for my own outfit. Jessica landed an entry-level position at a marketing firm. We bought a small starter home in a decent neighborhood, and I converted the garage into my office space. Every night we'd sit at our kitchen table, me with my business spreadsheets, her with her marketing proposals, and plan our future together. "We're going to build something amazing," she'd say, her eyes bright with dreams. Together. I believed her. I believed in us. 3 years in, my business took off. I had secured contracts with several property management companies, hired 4 full-time plumbers, and was clearing 6 figures. I worked hard, 60-hour weeks, on-call emergencies, hands-on leadership. Jessica celebrated with me initially. She seemed proud when I could afford to buy her the designer handbag she'd been eyeing, or when we upgraded to a larger home in an upscale neighborhood. But somewhere along the way, something shifted. Maybe it was when she started working at Pinnacle Real Estate, a luxury firm with offices in a gleaming downtown high-rise. Maybe it was the new crowd she fell in with, sleek executives in tailored suits who looked at me with barely concealed disdain at company events. Maybe it was just who she had always been, and I'd been too in love to see it. "Ryan handles plumbing," she'd say when introducing me, as if the word itself was contaminated. The way she'd pause before naming my profession, the slight curl of her lip, it cut deeper each time. Still, I tried. I always tried. I upgraded my wardrobe for her events. I read up on real estate trends so I could contribute to conversations. I listened to her stories about office politics and client negotiations with genuine interest. I supported her ambitions wholeheartedly, even when she started working later and later, even when her texts became shorter and less frequent. What I didn't tell Jessica was that plumbing had taught me more than how to fix leaks. It had taught me about systems, how things connect, how pressure builds, how to identify weak points. It had taught me patience and precision. Most importantly, it had taught me that sometimes the biggest problems lie hidden behind pristine walls. While Jessica was climbing her corporate ladder, I was quietly building a real estate portfolio of my own. Nothing flashy. Commercial properties in developing areas, multi-unit residences, strategic investments through carefully structured LLCs. I never flaunted my success. I simply let my bank account grow while Jessica increasingly treated me like the help. "You fix toilets. I fix careers," she sneered one morning, stepping past me in Louboutins I'd paid for. I watched her walk away, remembering the girl who'd once looked at me with respect and admiration. That girl was gone, replaced by someone I barely recognized. But I still loved her. Or maybe I loved who we used to be. That's why the betrayal cut so deep. The signs accumulated slowly, like rust gradually corroding a pipe. First came the missed dinners, networking events that mysteriously appeared on her calendar at the last minute. Then the new wardrobe, increasingly revealing outfits she never wore around me. Her phone became an extension of her hand, and she'd angle the screen away whenever I came near. "Just work stuff," she'd say dismissively. "You wouldn't understand." The distance between us widened. Physical intimacy became rare, then non-existent. When I tried to discuss it, Jessica would sigh dramatically. "I'm exhausted, Ryan. Some of us have mentally demanding jobs." The implication was clear. My work wasn't worthy of fatigue. My brain wasn't taxed by running a successful business with 20 employees and six-figure contracts. I was just a plumber after all. Then came the dinner party at our home, a gathering of Jessica's colleagues she'd insisted on hosting. I'd spent the day supervising a major commercial installation, then rushed home to help prepare. I grilled steaks, decanted wine, set up the patio exactly how she wanted it. When the guests arrived, Jessica was in her element, charming, vivacious, the perfect hostess. I tried to engage, sharing a story about a challenging job we'd completed for a historic building downtown. We had to custom fabricate the fittings to preserve the original. "Oh, honey," Jessica interrupted, placing a manicured hand on my arm. "Nobody wants to hear about pipes during dinner." She turned to her colleagues with an exaggerated eye roll. "He's cute when he thinks plumbing is a real career." The table erupted in laughter. I sat there, forks suspended mid-air, as my wife mocked me in our home, in front of people whose mortgages I could have paid off with a single check. Later that night, after everyone had left, Jessica was drunk on expensive champagne and success. She didn't notice me in the hallway as she called her friend. "God, did you see Mark tonight? The way he kept looking at me?" She giggled, a sound I once found endearing. "Sleeping with my boss is just strategic networking. Besides, Ryan's clueless. He'd never suspect a thing." I stood frozen, my world tilting on its axis. That was the moment something broke inside me. Not with a crash, but with a quiet click, like a lock disengaging. The next day, I made a call to my attorney. Not to file for divorce, not yet. I needed information first, confirmation, evidence, strategy. As luck would have it, one of the commercial properties in my portfolio was a certain downtown high-rise that housed Pinnacle Real Estate. Being the property owner through a shell LLC meant I had legitimate access to building security systems, maintenance reports, and access logs. I didn't abuse this privilege. I simply exercised my right to review the security of my investment. The logs told a story. Jessica's keycard accessing the building at odd hours. Executive floor elevators activated long after business hours. Then came the security footage, frame by excruciating frame of my wife and her boss, Mark Daniels, in compromising positions throughout the office, against his desk, in the conference room, in the stairwell. I watched it all, methodically cataloging dates, times, locations. I noted instances where company credit cards were used at nearby hotels. I documented every breach of corporate conduct, every misuse of company resources, every violation of Pinnacle's own stated policies against interpersonal relationships between supervisors and subordinates. All the while, Jessica continued her charade at home. "I've got great news," she announced one evening, eyes gleaming with triumph. "I'm being promoted to Director of Luxury Acquisitions. There's going to be a formal announcement next Monday." "That's wonderful," I said, kissing her cheek. "You deserve it." She looked momentarily taken aback by my enthusiasm, perhaps expecting jealousy or resentment. Then she smiled, that confident, somewhat condescending smile I'd grown to hate. "I really do," she agreed. All those late nights finally paying off. Indeed they were, just not in the way she imagined. 3 nights later, Jessica didn't come home until 2 a.m. I was sitting in the dark of our living room when she stumbled in, her hair disheveled, lipstick smeared. "Client celebration," she slurred, not even bothering to make her lie convincing. I said nothing, just watched as she kicked off her heels and headed upstairs without so much as a glance in my direction. In that moment, I understood with perfect clarity, nothing would change unless I changed it. This woman, this stranger wearing my wife's face, would continue to disrespect me, betray me, and mock the life I'd built for us until I put a stop to it. I thought about confronting her. I imagined the scene, the shouting, the denials, then the tearful confession and hollow apologies. She'd blame stress or loneliness or my work hours, anything but her own choices. She might even suggest counseling, promise to change, cling to the comfortable life I provided while continuing to despise the man who provided it. That wasn't good enough. Jessica hadn't just cheated on me. She'd systematically denigrated me, my work, my identity. She'd taken my support, my love, my financial security, and repaid me with contempt. This wasn't a momentary lapse in judgment. It was a revelation of character. I deserved better, and Jessica deserved consequences. That night, as she slept upstairs, in our bed, smelling of another man's cologne, I made my decision. The plan crystallized in my mind with perfect clarity. I would not be cruel. I would not be vengeful. I would simply be methodical. Jessica had built her life on appearances and ambition. I would show her exactly what happens when that foundation crumbles. The next morning, I called in sick to work for the first time in years and waited for Jessica to leave the house. When she left, I went into my home office and retrieved a flash drive from my safe, the one containing all the security footage and documentation I'd compiled. Then I called my attorney, Ellis Thorpe, and scheduled an immediate meeting. I need to discuss two matters, I told him. A corporate ethics violation and a divorce. Ellis had been my attorney for years, handling my business contracts and property acquisitions. He was discreet, thorough, and utterly ruthless when necessary. We spent 3 hours in his office, reviewing evidence and outlining strategy. The timing is crucial, Ellis explained. We need to submit this ethics complaint to Pinnacle's HR department and board of directors simultaneously, with copies to external regulatory bodies. Then immediately file the divorce papers with the prenuptial enforcement. Ah, the prenup. Jessica had laughed when I suggested it before our wedding. A plumber's fantasy, she'd called it, signing without even reading the terms. Those terms clearly stated that in case of infidelity, the guilty party forfeited any claim to premarital assets or business interests. My company, my properties, our home, all protected. What about our joint accounts? I asked Ellis. We'll freeze them pending divorce proceedings. It's standard practice. I nodded. And the house? It's in your name only. She'll need to vacate. The plan was taking shape. But there was one more element I needed to address: Jessica's pending promotion. I want the ethics complaint to reach Pinnacle by Monday morning, I said, before the promotion announcement. Ellis raised an eyebrow. That's cutting it close. We'll need to prepare all documentation immediately. Do it, I replied, and make sure the building management company receives a copy as well. As the property owner, I have concerns about liability. We spent the weekend preparing documents, organizing evidence, and establishing the precise sequence of events. I maintained perfect normalcy at home, congratulating Jessica on her upcoming promotion, even suggesting we celebrate with a trip once the announcement was made. That sounds perfect, she said, kissing me absently before checking her phone, probably texting Mark about their latest conquest. I watched her, memorizing the smugness, the entitlement, the absolute certainty of her untouchability. By Monday, that would all be gone. On Sunday night, Ellis confirmed everything was in place. The ethics complaint would be delivered to Pinnacle's offices at 8 a.m., shortly before Jessica arrived for what she thought would be her triumphant day. The divorce papers would be filed at 9 a.m., and by noon, our joint accounts would be frozen. The locksmith would arrive at our house at 1 p.m. to change the locks. I slept surprisingly well that night, better than I had in months. There's a certain peace that comes with decisive action, with reclaiming control of your own narrative. As Jessica slept beside me, blissfully unaware of what awaited her, I felt no anger, no hatred, just a calm certainty that justice was about to be served. Monday morning dawned bright and clear. Jessica spent extra time getting ready, choosing her most expensive suit, applying her makeup with precision, styling her hair to perfection. She was preparing for coronation, unaware she was dressing for execution. "I probably won't be home until late," she said, checking her reflection one last time. "The team will want to celebrate." "Of course," I replied. "Good luck today." She flashed me an indulgent smile. "I don't need luck." I watched her walk to her car, designer briefcase in hand, confidence in every step. It would be the last time she left this house as its resident. At precisely 8 a.m., Ellis's courier delivered the ethics complaint to Pinnacle Real Estate. A comprehensive dossier detailing Jessica and Mark's affair, complete with time-stamped security footage, access logs, and documentation of company resources used for their rendezvous. Copies were simultaneously delivered to Pinnacle's Board of Directors, the Property Management Company, and the state's Real Estate Ethics Board. By 8:30 a.m., according to my later reconstruction of events, Pinnacle's HR director was viewing the footage with the company's legal counsel. By 8:45 a.m., an emergency meeting had been called with senior leadership. By 9 a.m., security personnel were being briefed. At 9:05 a.m., my divorce petition was filed at the county courthouse, citing irreconcilable differences and infidelity, with the prenuptial agreement attached as Exhibit A. At 9:15 a.m., Jessica walked into Pinnacle's offices, expecting applause and congratulations. Instead, she was met by the head of HR and 2 security guards. I wasn't there to witness what happened next, but Ellis had a contact at Pinnacle who filled in the details later. Jessica was escorted to a conference room, not her boss's office. Mark wasn't present. She was informed that her employment was being terminated effective immediately due to gross violations of company ethics policies, including inappropriate relationships that constitute conflicts of interest and misuse of company resources. She was handed a letter detailing the charges against her and informed that her final paycheck would be withheld pending an investigation into expense account irregularities. Her company phone was confiscated, her email access terminated on the spot. She was given 15 minutes to collect personal items from her desk, under supervision, before being escorted from the building. By 10:30 a.m., Jessica was sitting in her car in the parking garage, shell-shocked and jobless. That's when she tried to call me. I didn't answer. Instead, I sent a text. "Meeting with attorney. We'll call later." At noon, exactly as planned, our joint accounts were frozen. Any attempt by Jessica to withdraw funds would be denied. At 12:30 p.m., as Jessica was undoubtedly still reeling from her professional execution, a courier delivered the divorce papers to her via her location sharing on our family plan. The documents were explicit: immediate separation, enforcement of the prenuptial agreement, forfeiture of rights to our home and any business interests or properties. At 1 p.m., the locksmith arrived at our house. By 2 p.m., all locks had been changed, security codes updated, and a formal notice posted on the door informing Jessica that she was no longer permitted on the premises per pending legal proceedings. At 2:30 p.m., I received a call from Jessica's sister, Amanda. "What the hell is going on?" she demanded. "Jessica just called me hysterical. Something about being fired and locked out of her house?" "Our house," I corrected calmly. "And yes, she's been served with divorce papers. I suggest she find a hotel while she consults an attorney." "But why?" "What happened?" "Ask her about Mark Daniels," I replied, then ended the call. By 3 p.m., Jessica had called me 17 times. I didn't answer. I was in meetings with my company managers, ensuring business continuity during what would undoubtedly be a personal disruption. At 5 p.m., I finally returned home. To my home, secured and protected. I poured myself a scotch and waited. At 7:23 p.m., Jessica arrived. I watched through the security camera as she tried her key, then pounded on the door, screaming my name. I activated the intercom. "The divorce petition has been filed, Jessica. Your belongings will be packed by a service and delivered to any address you provide. Please step away from the property." "Ryan!" she shrieked. "You can't do this! This is my home too!" "Not according to the prenup you signed," I replied evenly. Section 4, Paragraph 3. In the event of infidelity, the offending party forfeits all rights to shared residence and premarital assets. You knew? How? "I own the building, Jessica. Your office building. Through an LLC. I've had access to security footage for months." The silence that followed was deafening. I could almost see the realization dawning on her face. "If you don't leave immediately," I continued, "I'll be forced to call the police and report a trespasser. I don't want to do that." "Where am I supposed to go?" Her voice had lost its edge, now small and uncertain. "That's not my concern anymore. Goodbye, Jessica." I cut the connection and watched as she stood there, designer suit rumpled, mascara streaking down her face. Eventually, she returned to her car and drove away. I poured another scotch and slept soundly for the second night in a row. The next few weeks unfolded exactly as I'd anticipated. Jessica hired an attorney, of course, but there was little they could do. The prenup was ironclad, the evidence of infidelity incontrovertible. She tried to claim partial ownership of my business, arguing she'd contributed to its growth, but financial records clearly showed all capital had come from my earnings alone. The divorce was finalized in record time, with Jessica receiving nothing beyond her personal possessions and her leased car, the payments for which she now had to assume. Her credit cards, all joint accounts for which I was the primary holder, were canceled. The only thing in her name was a store card, already maxed out. Meanwhile, the professional fallout was equally devastating. Mark Daniels had been stripped of his executive position and transferred to a satellite office in a different state. Pinnacle's internal investigation revealed additional improprieties beyond the affair, resulting in further disciplinary actions. Jessica's reputation in the industry was shattered. I heard through mutual connections that she'd tried to stay with her sister, Amanda, who refused her. "I can't have your drama here. My husband's friends saw the videos," she reportedly said. Jessica was forced to crash on an old college friend's couch in a tiny apartment across town. Word spread quickly through professional circles. Jessica's social media accounts, once showcasing her glamorous career ascent, fell silent. Former colleagues disassociated themselves, unwilling to be tainted by connection. Recruiters who had once courted her now ghosted her inquiries. 3 months after the implosion of Jessica's carefully constructed facade, I ran into her former assistant at a charity event. "She's working at a boutique in the mall," she told me, not bothering to hide her satisfaction. "The one she used to drop 4 figures at every month. Minimum wage plus commission." I nodded but didn't comment. I didn't need to gloat. The justice had already been served. As for me, life improved dramatically once the dead weight of a toxic marriage was removed. My business continued to thrive. I opened a new branch specializing in high-end residential renovations. My real estate portfolio expanded with the acquisition of a promising mixed-use development. I even started dating again, quietly and selectively. 6 months after the divorce, I received a text from an unknown number. "I'm sorry. I never appreciated what we had. Please talk to me. Jay." I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. A year to the day after I'd watched that security footage of my wife with another man, I closed on another commercial property, a struggling luxury real estate office on the verge of bankruptcy. I renamed it, restructured it, and transformed it into a thriving business within 6 months. The irony wasn't lost on me. The plumber had succeeded where the real estate expert had failed. I never mentioned this to Jessica, never rubbed her nose in my success or her downfall. I didn't need to. Living well was indeed the best revenge. Sometimes I drive past the mall where Jessica works, not to see her, but to remind myself of how far I've come. I think about the woman who once sneered at my profession, who mocked the very work that built her comfortable life, who thought herself too good for the man who loved her. She once said I fixed toilets. She wasn't wrong. But what she never understood was that my profession taught me something valuable. When something is too clogged with shit to function properly, sometimes the only solution is to flush it away completely. And that's exactly what I did.